If you've ever gotten into an argument with someone about sexual orientation, chances are you've had to argue whether or not sexual orientation is a choice. I'm S.J. Lyon, and this is the Sex Talk. The short and sweet answer to this question is that it is, and it isn't. In general, sexuality research suggests that orientation is hardwired to some degree, and more fluid and flexible in certain situations. It's important to note that sexual orientation isn't the same thing as sexual preference. A sexual preference might involve being more sexually attracted to brunettes than blondes. Sexual preference or lifestyle have often been used in ignorance or out of bias, often to talk about any sexuality that isn't heterosexuality. Saying things like gay lifestyle give the impression that every gay person has the same way of living and acting. Essentially, it reinforces stereotypes and also supports the idea that anything outside of the norm of heterosexuality is a choice. Let's get a little more into why sexual orientation both is and isn't a choice. There are some aspects that are fixed pretty early in our lives. The American Psychological Association even states that sexual orientation emerges for most people in early adolescence without any prior sexual experience. That essentially reinforces the point that I made in my last video about how you don't need to have had sex or a romantic relationship with someone to prove your orientation. The APA goes on to talk about how people who have reported trying desperately for years to change their sexual orientation have had no success. This is one of many reasons psychologists don't consider sexual orientation to be a conscious choice that can be voluntarily changed. Having stated that, sexual orientation is also both fluid and based on active choices. We all make conscious choices about whom we take as sexual partners, what we call ourselves, and what communities we participate in. It's the choice and how we act that unfortunately leads to the flawed argument of, if queer people can choose whomever they partner with, then they can choose to be heterosexual. When we understand sexual orientation as the combination of attraction and action, we know this argument to be built on false logic. If your sexual orientation is anything that isn't straight, you very likely had someone tell you it's just a phase and/or you'll grow out of it. First, if you're someone that has said this to someone, don't be surprised if they cut you out of their life for saying something so ignorant and hurtful. Second, even if you realize you don't identify a certain way, that doesn't mean you have to justify anything to anyone. Nor does it mean that anyone gets to tell you, "I told you so." Sexual orientation should be a journey of discovery. It's common to experiment with sexual and romantic partners in your teen and young adult years. That doesn't make those relationships any less meaningful, though. Sometimes that experimenting is what leads people to discover feelings that they've always had, or reinforces feelings they weren't sure about. In summary, you don't have a choice in who you're attracted to, but you can choose how you act on those feelings, what you identify as, and whether or not you come out to people. Whatever your sexual orientation, whether you've figured it out yet or not, know that you are valid. What you're feeling is valid, and you don't need to justify those feelings to anyone. I'm S.J. Lyon. This has been the Sex Talk on if sexual orientation is a choice. A quick reminder that if you enjoy my content here, I have even more over on my Instagram, plus a Patreon where you can contribute as little as $1 a month to help me keep this all going. Until next time, stay safe, everyone.